All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Generations Legacy Evolution Animated Universe Prowl. This is a figure that I've been excited about for a while, and a concept generally, just because, Legacy and Legacy Evolution kind of promised us, some new iterations of characters that weren't originally from G1. And Prowl here is the first time that we're actually seeing that applied to Transformers Animated. And I think that Animated really is a concept, or like is a show that really uses this concept really well, because when we got some of our previous ones, they were mostly from Transformers Prime or like G2, and like the G2 guys pretty much already fit in with the G1 guys anyway. Like it's just kind of an expansion of the G1 continuity. And Prime, they were doing this like G1ifying thing where like they were making them look not quite like their original selves from the original show, which a lot of people didn't really receive super well, just because like I feel like in terms of Transformers Prime style, they more or less fit in okay with G1 anyway. Like, yeah, they're a little bit more complex and like, kind of, live action movie like in terms of their sort of like design aesthetic, but mostly they fit in. Whereas Transformers Animated, the aesthetic of Transformers Animated is very, very cartoony. And while I love that aesthetic for the show, I've never really been a huge fan of the animated toy line, just because like I tend to collect in terms of all of my Transformers being able to kind of like fit into a sort of like shared canon with each other. And the aesthetic of the animated toys was very much more like that cartoony vibe, so it wouldn't really fit in with the more kind of like regular proportion things from G1 and other continuities. So to see this sort of legacy evolution kind of thing applied to animated characters is a really, really exciting concept for me. And I think that they've done it really, really well with Prowl. I don't have that many animated toys, so I can't show him off with the original Prowl. I think I only have two, maybe three, if I'm forgetting about one. But like I said, it's just not really my aesthetic in terms of the toy line. But yeah, so I think he looks really good in his bike mode. It actually looks pretty accurate to how he looked in animated itself. Just because it is a motorcycle, I don't know how stylized it possibly could have been, but all the major cues are there, even if the proportions are slightly different. There's a couple sort of like polishing issues that I have with this mode. One, the arms don't really stay pegged in together all that well here in the back, so there's always kind of a seam, which is annoying, but not that big a deal. Another thing is the kickstand is a little bit too short, so like you can get him to balance, but it is it's kind of an uphill battle. Like he definitely like leans over when you're actually using the kickstand, which is again not that big a deal, just kind of a nitpick. Again, other nitpicks, like you can kind of see through sections here, but that's really it. And spoiler alert, but those are like kind of my biggest complaints with the whole figure. I think that even when you get to robot mode, there's really even less to complain about. He just looks very, very nice in both of his modes. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, if I can get him, I'll just hold him. Here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, just for a standard size deluxe comparison. And, obviously they don't scale at all, just because motorcycle, car, that was always going to be an issue with guys like Prowl, just because like they want him to be as tall as other robots in robot mode, but not in vehicle mode. So yeah, in my head canon, I just have him turn into a big bike and, a la the Junkions, and live with that. But that's oh, I got him. Okay. Leave them there. That's what they look like together. For another motorcycle comparison, for another recent one, here he is with the Prime RC mold. This is Road Rocket, but still, pretty comparable size there. Say maybe a little bit bigger than her, but still works out pretty well. And then here he is with some other animated cast members. We've got Optimus Prime, we've got Bulkhead. I don't have the Legacy version. I prefer the first edition from Transformers Prime. We got Ratchet and Bumblebee, just so you can see the main five there. And I think they look pretty good together. I mean, again, obviously Prowl is way out of scale in terms of a motorcycle with these vehicles, but it's all right. I think that they still look pretty good together. Now, he does come with a couple weapons. They are already stored on the vehicle mode. They're just these little things that I'll show off in the robot mode itself, but they just store on the wheel wells here. So nice unobtrusive weapon storage, just right part of the bike. I really appreciate that. It's a little weird to me that they didn't like, I don't know which way I would have wanted it, but they didn't match the like fake painted one with the it's like it's on the wrong side, so they look a little asymmetrical either way you look at it, but that's again not a big deal. But yeah, to get onto transformation, first thing we can do, we'll just flip in the little kickstand there, and that's another thing I will say is that it's kind of hard to get the kickstand out of there. You usually have to like untab this section and bring it down just so you can have the clearance to actually flip it out, which is a little annoying, but again, this is like really reaching for for complaints here. He also rolls fairly well. As much as you can with a motorcycle before it'll just fall over. But yeah, you want to flip the kickstand there. For the front wheel here, you kind of want to like bring it out like this, and this can be a little bit scary sometimes, but because the foot is kind of like locked in behind a couple of these like clear plastic pieces, and when you're going back into bike mode, that's really not that doesn't really feel that bad to kind of like clip it in like that. But the best way I found to get it out is just to do that, and it feels a little bit weird, but not the end of the world. And then bring this down so this little kind of carved out section fits over this little screw hole here, and then straighten it out like that. Then you want to take these two kind of like side panels here. They both tab into the other foot, so you want to untab them and then also tab into this section, and then rotate these around just like that. Then you want to take the handlebars that were up there where the handlebars would be, and they'll rotate around on those sections to sit up there like that. And then for the other leg, it's notionally supposed to tab into the arms up here, but kind of just rests there. You just want to straighten it out, and then again, flip the foot forward and just leave them like this for now. You actually don't want to straighten them out yet, just because you need them like this for later in the transformation for clearance. And then you want to take the arms, and then on these goldish armatures, you want to flip them up like that until they meet in the middle, and then you want to bring this whole section up, kind of bring the seat down a little bit until it'll clip into place. And then again, with this all like this, you want to bring this whole section down. You've got this panel with the head on it that you kind of want to bring with it just so it doesn't bump into things until that clips all the way down. And then you can bring this the rest of the way kind of around the head. Kind of helps sometimes to like angle the head back when you're doing this. It can be kind of a tricky maneuver, but kind of once you know how things move past each other, it's not too bad. And then you bring this whole section around like this. This is why you want to leave the waist like this so that these sections have the clearance to move past it. And then bring these up just like this, and they'll tab into to these gold sections here. Then you can kind of bring the head down. Now we can rotate the waist so it's facing forward, and then rotate the legs so they're facing forward as well, and then reach into the arms and flip out the hands here. And there we have animated Prowl in his robot mode. And yeah, he looks fantastic. I really love the design choices that they went with here. Because like I said earlier, the sort of like new Prime Universe characters kind of rub people the wrong way, where it felt like they kind of went overboard with the sort of like G1ification and took away sort of like most of the like defining features of those characters, whereas I really feel like they hit a much better balance here. Like they let the proportions on the head be still a little bit long, just because the animated style, they all have like these super long chins, and this sort of like feels like it fits in with other generation style figures, but still the chin is a little long. It kind of, what it kind of looks like is it kind of feels like they're doing like a comic book adaptation with like the Nick Roche style with the sort of like longer faces, and so it still kind of feels like it fits in. And again, like all of the marks are there, all of the details are in the right place. They're just like slightly squatter and less skinny proportions, and overall I just think it looks really good. I would say aside from just proportions, the biggest departure is that now he's got like the handlebars up here on his little back wings, and that is really not that big a deal. I think that works out pretty well. But yeah, in terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint, so you get a pretty good range there. You can look up pretty far as well because it's got a nice cut in the back. Unfortunately, mine has a little paint blemish there, a little chip on the gold crest there, but what can you do? The arms are on swivels at the shoulders, and then they can also hinge out to the side about that far. It's got a bicep swivel, about 90 degrees of bend at the elbow there. The wrists can only go in for transformation. He's got a waist cut, which the little seat piece kind of like, folds out of the way for. So if you're trying to just like grab him and rotate the waist, it feels like it's just locked in place if you're grabbing the seat. So you have to make sure that you're letting that stay with the top, but otherwise a normal swivel. Then the hips can go forward and back and out to the side. It's got a thigh swivel. He's got a few degrees over 90 of bend at the knee. And then he also, because of transformation, has this sort of like mid shin joint, which I mean, if you use it just a little bit, it can act as kind of like a further sort of, knee bend. But if you use it too much and it starts to look like you're like breaking his leg down the shin. So if you use it a little bit, I think it's still useful. But at a certain point, it does start to look weird. And then the feet are they're on ball joints. So they can kind of rotate a little bit off to the side, not a ton of ankle tilt. And then for transformation, they can tilt all the way down and then not really any forward. So yeah, pretty decent articulation. And honestly, all the joints feel pretty tight and solid as well. Like there's nothing that's like really loose on him. He just feels like really, really solid. Now, in terms of his weapons, I showed them off before. On each of his legs, on the outside here, he has one of these little things, and they're very similar to his previous weapons from the original animated toy, where you want to take the top disc here, and then you want to rotate it so it kind of it like gears these on the way. Sometimes they get stuck, so you have to kind of like help it along, and they don't like really click out or anything in a meaningful way, but still, it's got two little shuriken things there, which are pretty cool. Now his hands here are actually sculpted a bit differently. This one is sculpted so you can just hold like regular kind of like 5mm peg stuff like every other figure, and this one is specifically sculpted so he can hold these, which it's not like a super tight connection or anything, but he definitely does hold them better in this hand. I can never really figure out what the mechanism for these is how it's supposed to function. So they kind of, they tend to droop in a little bit, but it's fine. They still look pretty good. Honestly, I think this one even works a little bit better than the other one. Now that I've said that, I can't even get it to open, but there we go. They kind of click into place when they're in their sort of like locked up position, but otherwise they don't really click out. But still, that's pretty cool. And again, love that, he's got perfect weapon storage in that it's, unobtrusive in both modes, and just works really well. And in terms of comparisons in this mode, for the standard one, here he is again with Sideswipe, and here he is again with Road Rocket, just for posterity's sake, just so you can see what he looks like with a couple average size Deluxe. They're pretty much the same height as Sideswipe. And then here he is again with the main Transformers animated cast with Prime, Bulkhead, Ratchet, and Bumblebee, just so you can see what the whole team looks like there in the sort of generation style. I guess he's technically not, but like I said, that the Prime ones kind of fit in my opinion. So that's what he looks like with them. And then here he is with a couple other, animated characters that he had a good rapport with. Here he is with Lockdown and with Jazz. And supposedly we're going to be getting a new version of Lockdown pretty soon. My theory is still that he's going to be a repaint of the third like Junkion that we're going to be getting. So that should be pretty exciting. But for now, he fits in pretty well with him. But that's pretty much all there is to Prowl. He's just a really, really solid figure, and definitely a nice start to Legacy Evolution Wave 2, I guess I should say. Like I said before, like the Deluxes in Wave 1, I felt a little bit rocky about. Like they were fine, but none of them were like overly that exciting. And so far, the Deluxes from Wave 2 that I've gotten, I'm pretty thrilled with. So it's looking up. This definitely feels a bit more on par with the Voyagers of Wave 1 of Legacy Evolution, which were really just real bangers. So that's pretty much all there is to it. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Make sure to check out my Instagram account. That's toys.n.art. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Generations Legacy Evolution Animated Universe Prowl.